Rachita, how are you doing today?
Very well. How are you, Asiti?
I'm doing amazing as well. Thank you for doing a podcast with MHP. We are called Crazy to Change the World. And
It's my
today,
pleasure.
yeah, today's topic is taboos about psychologists and counselor. So let's begin
hmm
with the very basic question as to why is mental health still a taboo?
so see, if you see according to statistics also, 1 out of 5 is definitely depressed. 38 million are still crippled with anxiety disorder. And when I talk about India per se, so 56 million Indians are diagnosed with depression. And if we see all the, be it celebrities or anybody here and there, suicide, it's taken up so normally. It's so scary to even look at that, right? But again, why is it still a taboo? I think the answer lies definitely in the stereotype that we see. We know that anything that we absorb, that is our mental schemas, it comes from experiences, it comes from people, it comes from all the experiences, events around us. So when we see there's a generalized stigma, a stereotypical behavior towards mental health, that's when you get scared of it. You don't want to tell anybody. You think it's a taboo and something's wrong. Something is definitely wrong with that, right? So when you go into therapy, people are called as mad and all these sorts of words which are definitely not appropriate, right? And in Indian families, also possibly around the world, going to therapy means something is wrong with you. Let me take you to a doctor. Let me take you to a doctor. It's not therapy. It's nothing wrong. You just need a doctor, right? So it's actually happening because it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being mad by people. So people obviously take it as a taboo. They're still not able to accept it because uh, there are so many gender roles that we have. For example, the men are supposed to be tough and strong, and women are supposed to be nurturing and sweet. So if the men are trying to express what they feel, it's not taken up well. So the taboo space is because of the, I think, the stigmatization, how it's there's always a stereotypical behavior towards mental health, which I think needs to change. And it is changing, yes.
True, true. With time, it's changing slowly, but yeah, slow
Uh-huh.
and steady wins the race. So there
Waiting for
are,
it to actually reach the end point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as I'm a student, I have come across
Mm-hmm.
so many myths that go around with psychologists and counselors. I wanted to address these myths one by one. So the first
Okay.
one I've heard so many times is therapy is only for really, really serious problems. The labels like schizo or OCD. So let's address this one first.
So, it surprises me how people use these terms so easily, firstly. It is, I think, firstly, it's not ethical to use these kind of terms so easily. And if we see randomly reels on Instagram, they're talking about just somebody, taking things and keeping it safe as OCD. That's not it, right? And there are multiple misconceptions when it comes to therapy that, people only struggling with real mental health issues are supposed to go. But that's necessarily not the case. Therapy is great to explore and understand your own self and navigate every day of your life, right? It could include your relationships, your work, or your general life decisions altogether. And you can always go and explore the change that you want to make, right? So it's kind of a self help tool development that, you try to go and you try to understand the process to become a better person for your own self. So it's never like, oh, I need to have an issue or I need to have a disorder to go to therapy. You can always go to therapy to be self aware. And
Hmm.
that is so important if we see to be self aware of things, of people around you, to make certain decisions. And people might not understand, but I think it's really hard to believe that people still they take those terms as very casually. Oh, you have OCD, or you depressed. Like there's a very thin line between sadness and depression, which definitely is not taken it well, right?
Yeah. The next myth that just babbles my mind is like not many people go to therapy. I mean, it's 2023. Stop.
No, actually, no, but when you're talking about 2023, that's true. But prior, so I started my practice right before COVID started. So people would not turn up, to be very honest. They would not turn up. They would possibly were busy in their own life or possibly not even paying close attention to how they feel. But during COVID, things drastically changed. People started actually coming out. They started talking about a lot of things that they were getting aware of. And to be very honest, my clients are mostly men than women, which is wonderful.
This is
It
a
is
drastic,
wonderful.
beautiful change.
Yeah, like everybody is coming up, and it started off with a lot of women for sure, yes. But now, if I see right now, the amount of men who are my clients is a lot more than women, and they talk about everything. They would even show their emotions and not even feel judged, which is wonderful. I think it's the COVID that's hit so many people that they've started to realize the importance of mental health and therapy.
Nice, nice. The next myth that I come across is all therapy is same. It's kind of like all fit one kind of a thing, and I really don't understand how can people come up with that when they're doing their jobs and they know that it's never an all fit one kind of a situation.
Yeah. I think for me, the most relevant example, if I would say, is when you start looking at a very vast landscape of therapy from possibly like a 30,000 feet, so the treatment, the outcomes look the same. Similarly, how we're in the plane and we start seeing down, do we see these minute details of what goes on, right? So when we're actually looking at the landscape from above, we actually see that, okay, everything just looks the same. Everything is the same. It's just a plain service out there. So we start taking a closer look to it. We actually see the unique features of a given area. And similarly, if you look at the specific problems that we have with a lot of convincing research that's been done, some therapies work for only some problems or and the other work for others, right? So we have different therapies, CBT, Gestalt, person centered. So everything just works very differently from different people and different issues that you come up with. So it might look the same, yes, because the outcome is beautiful altogether, but it's never the same.
The next myth is my personal favorite because it kind of makes sense somewhere theoretically, but obviously it's just a myth. So the next one is therapy is just a pricey session for ranting.
Oh, I love the word pricey out there.
I mean, we
I
deserve
think that's a
our
lot
pay.
of we deserve. Like every day we go back and we try to learn everything and discover new things about it, right? Because every time we take a session, we need to be prepared for the next one. We need to read about it. And when you talk about this kind of myth, actually, I kind of understand it because I had this XYZ person. I never took sessions with the person. But I know somebody who kind of contacted me saying that, listen, I'm going to went after you. You should pay me. And I'm just like, okay, lovely, but sorry, not happening. Possibly was a fake profile anyway. But again, venting does happen. For sure, it does happen. But that's not the only way because you're not just coming and venting out to us. There's so much that goes on. It's a two-way process, right? So if I possibly tell somebody an activity to do, or we say to our clients, it's not like the person is, just sitting and listening, ki, haan, theek hai, I've been told it's fine. It's it's a two-way process. If I tell you something to take care of it, that's how things are going to work. So venting out is not the entire issue. It's a huge process that goes on. First, you build your rapport. You try to understand them. You try to take care of things, and that's when yes, they vent to you. They vent it out, but there are solutions to it. We kind of navigate towards the vision together.
Yeah, very true, very true. The next one is kind of somewhere you've already addressed it, but it's not much applicable towards the current generation, maybe Gen Zs or a part of millennials, the late millennials, but the early
Yeah.
millennials and boomers, they probably still think that people will judge them for going towards therapy or they will think poorly of them. So, how can we address to that?
Um, so I believe that generations are definitely changing. There's a lot of changes, there's a lot of cultural change, social change, yes, but there are few ways of accepting things. So if there is somebody who's possibly not accepting right now, you're not supposed to feel pressured towards it. It's up to you if you want to tell your friends, your family, your co-workers, your loved ones. But there's never a pressure, A, and there's no need to feel ashamed of what you're doing because A, you're actually taking care of yourself. So if you feel that there's somebody who might not even understand, it's not necessary for you to tell them because possibly they might be taking it and not telling you, right? There are a lot of people who take therapy more than you think of. So it's always important for you to have that kind of a trust and love that you share amongst each other to understand if that's the right space where I can share what I feel and I can share that yes, I'm taking therapy because a lot of people might not understand, and I think every individual is so different from one another. We can't expect them to do exactly what we want them to do. So these changes are coming from generations. So we can't expect them to exactly understand and accept what we feel is correct, even though it might feel so.
Okay, the next one is kind of important to address.
Okay.
A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think that therapy is not confidential.
Ooh. Okay. So when we're actually trying to become therapists, that's one thing that we're told. Like we literally like feeded with, right?
Yeah.
We
I mean,
feed
the
with that.
class of ethics with every subject that we've done, confidentiality is the number one
Oh,
thing that we learn.
it is. You can't do without it. What is therapy without that? I don't understand because it's one of the most um it's one of the most rocking stone. Like it's the base of us, right? It's supposed to be there, and I think the client is supposed to know that listen, whatever I tell my therapist is going to remain in the room amongst us, and it's not going out. And trust me on that. When I have a new client, and when I'm building the rapport, that's something I make sure I tell them. I tell them, listen, what we're talking is here. And for that matter, I don't even write notes. People write notes during therapy. To Again, I think it's very normal for them to write, and it's correct. There's nothing wrong. But I don't even write notes so that nobody sees it, just in case. They don't open my drawer or they don't just randomly, check it to take a page or write something. So everything that happens in a session, I take into account mentally, and these are my themas that are there. I remember it, however, but I never write like a single note because I take care of that so like religiously that oh my god, like nobody should know about it.
Okay, so this is the
But
last
yeah.
myth that I've commonly heard, even at my house, even with people in universities, general public.
Hmm.
So, and I kind of understand why they say it. There are people who
Yeah.
have autism spectrum disorder, there are people with bipolar disorder, borderline disorder,
Hmm.
schizophrenia, and
Yeah.
with it is there is no cure for these disorders, but it's only how we can deal with them better. So the myth is said to be that I'll have to stay forever in therapy. And
Ah. Okay. So I think your relationship with your therapist can be one of the most beautiful, meaningful relationships and even very productive if you talk about it, right? Because so much of collaboration occurs and you're not supposed to stay in therapy forever. It's not something that, you're supposed to, you're pressurized to do. Stopping the therapy is definitely an option. And when you feel that you've achieved a certain goal, but again, with the kind of disorders that we talk about, there might be a cure, might not be. But again, there are trigger points. So when you feel that listen, okay, that's my trigger, something is happening, your therapist is going to be that one call. But again, there are disorders where you might feel that you don't You can't stop therapy, but I think that's for the therapist to actually tell you when is it correct. But for the subclinical issues like anxiety, stress, work life balance, relationship, family issues, it should ultimately, it does come to an end, but that completely depends if you've reached your goal, where you're supposed to be at. And then even people, they forget about it. Like they don't need me every month or every week of their life. They might come to me like once in 3 months to be like, oh, it's been forever. I have to tell you this, what happened. So therapy does stop, but it's completely your choice. If you want to stop it, yes. But sometimes you can always like, come back for a session to get a lot of awareness, to understand what's been happening throughout the month, or to even understand and become conscious about your decisions. So stopping is an option, but definitely consult your therapist and talk about it because again, it's a collaborative method that you have with your therapist.
Amazing. So there is one more question in my mind actually. If
Hmm.
you're active on social media,
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
were a lot of trending reels about if I would listen to my impulsive, intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And they were not able to differentiate between impulsivity and intrusivity. I would like you to address that in a very understandable way for people so that there is a lot of awareness out there and they're not, miscommunicating things.
That's true because the reels that you're talking about, I think I have seen it once. I'm not too sure. But impulsive is when you're not patient about it. You need it to occur. You're not able to like keep up with the patience and be like, nahi, nahi, I have to do it. But intrusive is basically when there's something that's interfering with your own self, something that's actually coming in between your everyday scenarios, right? Something that's possibly poking you. Impulse is just a thought like, oh, today I feel like, oh, somebody said something to me, I don't like it. That's why impulse. That's how I react upon stuff. Intrusive is basically when there's something that's not possibly welcomed enough, but it's just intrusive in your life. It's just come in between. So definitely there are a lot of when we talk about it when it comes to even work motivation, like you take care of people with a lot of work life balance. There are so many intrusive motivation needs that we have, right? That we need to take care of because again, it's coming from within you. It's not an impulse. There are different things that go beyond that, but there's a huge difference between impulse and intrusive thought.
Thank you so much, Rachita, for your time. And I really don't want this conversation to end. It
It
was
was so
lovely,
much
lovely
fun. I
talking.
love connecting with you.